Hey, what's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be giving you the best picks of day 2 of the 2023 NFL Draft. Let's get right into this video. Alright, so to start off this list, I'm going to have Joey Porter Jr. I really like this pick for the Steelers. They needed cornerback, and this is also a really good player and a good fit at the position. They lost Cam Sutton over the offseason. He signed with the Lions 3 years, $33 million, and I thought Joey Porter Jr. was a really good prospect. Overall, a really good man, a cornerback, good press cornerback. He has really good length with an 82-inch wingspan. He plays in the receiver's hips, but obviously he is still inconsistent in zone coverage, and he's not the fastest cornerback, but he's big. He's 6'2", like around 200 pounds. He ran a 4.47 at the combine, and then also really good man cornerback. And then for the Steelers, you're able to get a guy who I valued in the top 10. I had him as my eighth player in this draft class, and you get him at 32. Now, technically, it is a first-round pick. It was the first pick in the second round, the 32nd pick due to Miami having to forfeit their first-round pick due to tampering or tanking. But cornerbacks really fell hard in this draft class, and the Steelers got a really good guy who I thought they could even get at 17. But they're able to get him at 32. Really good selection for the Steelers. They got a really good cornerback in Joey Porter Jr. Speaking of another secondary player that fell in the draft, I'm going to have Brian Branch coming in here as an A+ for my draft grade. Look, Brian Branch is another phenomenal safety. Immediately, I'll think he'll go into the slot for Detroit. He's a tackle machine. He only had 4 missed tackles in 104 total tackles in his 3 years at Alabama. However, the reason why he slipped was definitely due to the combine, and also safeties didn't perform well at the overall. I didn't think this was a good safety class at all. It was my weakest in the class. However, Brian Branch is that Swiss Army knife. He can play in the box. He can play in the slot. Even though I wouldn't have him as my deep half safety, I like him as a strong safety. And Detroit doesn't really need the free safety. They already have Kelvin Joseph, who is that free safety type in the deep half. So now they have Brian Branch to lock up that box spot. And I had him as a first-round grade. He was also another top 20 guy. He was my 14th overall player, and you get him at 45. And you get him in the 14th overall pick in the second round, which is really good value for a guy that I think is a very good player. And great pick for the Lions. Man, we're really on the train of secondary players that fell that I thought were exceptionally good players. Look, Cam Smith, even though they have him as their 11th overall player and the 80th player on ESPN's list, I thought Cam Smith had a ton of potential. He was my 27th prospect in the draft class. He is a good ball hawk, even though he is smaller at around 6 foot, 180 pounds. And he is a little raw still with his technique. He's got fluid hips. He's got the speed. He's got the athleticism. I liked Cam Smith a lot. I thought he had potential to go in the really late second or really late first or the early second. But he fell all the way to 51 for the Miami Dolphins. And you're joining a defense with Vic Fangio, who has experience with some really good cornerbacks. And you're also joining a room with Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard. So you're not going to need to step in there immediately and be a difference maker right away. He's going to probably either move to the slot or he's going to sit 1 year. They have a pretty deep cornerback room for Miami. However, I think this was a really good selection for them. I'm going to give it an A overall grade. John Mitchell Schmitz was a phenomenal pick for the New York Giants. They definitely needed a center in this draft class, and they got it with that interior offensive line help. Listen, Saquon Barkley is definitely going to benefit from this a ton. John Mitchell Schmitz is a phenomenal run blocker. Now, in pass blocking, he isn't the greatest. That's why I think he slipped in this draft more. He wasn't the first center off the board either. That was Joe Tippmann, but I think he's the best run blocking center in this class. I had him as my number 1 overall one. He was also in my top 30 prospects in my top 50. And then for the Giants, this helps what you're doing. Your run-heavy offense with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. Continue to add that with John Mitchell Schmitz, which is one of the best value picks in this draft. I'm definitely going to give that an A. And I really like the Giants draft overall. They got a ton of good value and a ton of really solid players in their draft overall. Speaking about a top 10 player that I did not know would fall this far, I have Cedric Torrence coming in as an A+ for my draft grade. I had Torrence as my 10th highest rated player in my top 50 for the 2023 NFL class. He's got the NFL size at 6'5", 330 pounds. He's got really, really phenomenal run blocking. He is the best interior offensive lineman in this class, hands down, in my opinion. He has those strong hands where he's just going to move defensive linemen out of the way and create holes and gaps. He's solid in the pass game, although sometimes he can be beaten by quicker edge rush or by quicker defensive linemen that have really good agility. However, I think that his run blocking upside, and plus he went to a team that really, really needed offensive guard help with the Buffalo Bills. I had Cedric Torrence even going to the Buffalo Bills in one of my mock drafts. So I really like this pick. I think Cedric Torrence not only was he my highest rated interior offensive lineman in this class, but he went to a team that really needed that and filled one of their biggest holes. So I'm definitely giving this an A+. Moving on to the third round, I have Drew Sanders coming in at an A- grade. I like Drew Sanders a lot. He was my number 1 linebacker in this class, slightly above Jack Campbell. He's a strong side linebacker. He's got NFL size at 6'4", 235 pounds. However, he's a crazy versatile linebacker. He can blitz the quarterback from the A gap a ton. If you watch him at Arkansas, he had 9.5 sacks last year with 3 forced fumbles. He also can play in coverage. He doesn't have sideline to sideline speed, but he does have that athleticism to play well in coverage. The only thing that I would say is that he isn't the greatest shedder, and he's not really a man cornerback or a man linebacker, but he's 100% a strong side linebacker who could potentially be the Mike, even though I would definitely love him either being a rotational blitzer as well. He had 9.5 sacks last year. And he would be primarily in the run game as well, and then you could put him in coverage. I see him also as a 3-down linebacker, and he went to a team that desperately needed that strong side guy in Denver to once again boost one of their top 5 defenses by getting a versatile linebacker out of Arkansas. So I'm going to give this pick an A- for the Broncos. This may come as a shock for some of you, but I have Cedric Tillman as one of the best picks from the draft last night, and especially in the third round. I think Cedric Tillman was a top 10 receiver in this class. I had him around 7 to 8. I think he is a better version of Quentin Johnson, of what Quentin Johnson can actually offer. He's 6'3", 213 pounds. He had his breakout season last year, was injured this year. That's why he was outperformed by Jalen Hyatt, only had 400 yards. However, he has phenomenal hands. He has really good athleticism. He's really good after the catch. And he's just got that jump ball skills that guys like Quentin Johnson do not have. And then for the Cleveland Browns, you can pair him up with Donovan Peoples-Jones. You can pair him up with Elijah Moore, who's going to be in the slot, and then Amari Cooper, who's going to be at the Y. You can put Cedric Tillman on that X, and you have Deshaun Watson just throw that ball up to him. I think that Cedric Tillman, who was an arguable top 50 guy for me, was a very good pick in the third round, and you got really good value for him as well. As some receivers that I definitely didn't think were better than him went above him. Even his teammate like Jalen Hyatt, who I thought Cedric Tillman was. And then this is an incredibly easy pick. Darnell Washington getting drafted 93rd in the third round. I don't know exactly why he fell so far. He reminds me a ton of Mercedes Lewis, which is basically a 6th offensive lineman who is an absolute red zone threat and a reliable target. Apparently he fell due to a medical. However, Darnell Washington, this guy is 6'7", 260 pounds. He's essentially a 6th offensive lineman. He is really good technically as a tight end blocking. He's the best run blocking tight end because he's the biggest. He can also pass block a little bit. And then at the red zone, obviously, he's a humongous tight end at 6'7", 264. He's going to be bigger than any defender you really put on him, other than a defensive lineman, which he is going to cook in the red zone. And then you bring him to the Steelers. They already do have Pat Freiermuth, but I think that Pat Freiermuth is way more of a receiver for Kenny Pickett than Darnell Washington would be in that traditional tight end role of the blocking and then the red zone threat. That's a fun tight end tandem with Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. That's probably the best jump ball core in the NFL. And plus, I had Darnell Washington as my 29th or 30th best player in the draft. ESPN had them at 39. You get him at 93. It's an A+. You get him at great value. He's a great player. And and he goes to a team that he's going to do great in. So that's going to do it for this video. Let me know your best picks of day 2. Let me know some of your favorite moves in the draft so far. Let me know some of your steals in the draft. And then, of course, make sure you leave a comment, a like, and make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.